Hi everyone, I'm Rolka and I'm developing the cozy farming game Kohlrabi Starship. Last time I showed you how to add animations and worked on crisp rendering, but we haven't even seen the starship or stepped foot on a desert planet. And that is going to change in this devlog. I'm going to show you my process to create a starship that feels both cozy but is also functional. In the beginning of the month, I always map out what I want to do. So this time I decided I'm gonna design the exterior of the starship. I also want to design... And then I thought, this is not a lot, let's also do... Yeah, instead I ended up with wildly growing cacti that skipped the blooming phase to bear fruit like their life depended on it. In my despair, I found this meme that speaks to my innermost soul. Let the potato rest for 5 minutes. But back on topic, I needed a starship. I wanted something cute. This is not supposed to be Kerbal Space Program, this is supposed to be a cute farming game. We don't care about drag, so I decided the starship should be shaped like a star. I then sliced it up into different floors. From top to bottom there will be an observation deck, then the main floor with 3 farm triangles, and the inner living area, another farming floor, and last, the engine area. I decided to quickly model the star shape in Blender to help me understand how it would look, and so I could use it as a reference for the design. Here it looks like my star shape idea could really work. With this screenshot, I then started the design for the exterior. When you first encounter the starship, it will like crashed in the desert. This is the version I want to design first. I start with a sketch and focus on the overall design and the shapes and colors first. This is really important to not get lost in the details before I'm happy with the overall feel of it. For example, it took me a while to decide if I should give the top large windows or metal exterior. Since the observation deck will be located there, I chose the windows and also included some visible machinery to underline this is a spaceship. The player will be able to enter the inside through the broken window. Once I was happy with the overall design, I started to work on correct geometry for the upper part. I love Procreate for this, it makes it so easy to draw all the straight lines. I also kept the sketch next to the final painting as a guide. In-game, the spaceship is huge. Since I don't know what hardware my game is going to be played on later, I like to keep my texture images relatively small. Therefore, I decided to split the spaceship into 4 parts, a part for each visible tip of the star on a different layer. This also allows me later to more easily adjust which parts should be shown behind or in front of the player later in the game. At this point, I was not happy with the tip of the spaceship. It looked too pointy to me and I wanted to soften the look and make it a bit more cute. Therefore, I tried how it would look with a see-through sphere. Much better. I also added more green into the design, it's a greenhouse after all. To make my life easier, I am also reusing assets that I already designed, like the windows, by duplicating them and adjusting their color. Speaking of color, when designing, I'm paying attention to a few things to create a pleasant color palette. First, I decide which main colors to use, like gray and green in this case. Second, I pay attention to the shape to decide lighter and darker areas. So far, so easy. Third, I pay attention to the environment. Here we have a lot of hot desert with warm yellow, brown and orange tones, and we can assume there's a clear blue sky above. I then work these into the main colors. The downward facing grey sides of the spaceship are actually not pure grey but contain red, and the upward facing planes contain a bit more blue additionally, making it a violet, and then with the white stripes having the most blue. It's not really visible but immensely helps with the overall look. By now, I'm focusing on the details. I make sure I also have smaller details to emphasize how big the spaceship is. Adding the sand on top helps to anchor it more to the ground. I also add lots of glass shards in the sand. Especially when working with details, it is very easy to lose the eye for the larger picture. I have a few techniques to avoid this. Sometimes just changing the background, like adding a blue sky, can help, even if it will not be in the game. I also have a player character sketch in the foreground, and sometimes you can also see cacti, which will help me keep the scale of the spaceship in mind. And one last thing that you cannot see here is that I flip the canvas horizontally quite frequently. Procreate doesn't record it, but it is very helpful to get a fresh view on your project and often reveals weird proportions or skewed perspectives. Next, you can see me design the Kohlrabi Starship logo, and I added to the side of the ship in Kohlrabi colors. If you look closely, you might already have seen that I also like to add texture to larger surfaces. This can be done very easily with the textured brush in Procreate, and adds so much more realism to the design. Alright, now I'm just adding a few more details and I'm done. After all, I'm really happy how the spaceship turned out. I hope it will make anyone look forward to repairing it to its old glory. I also made sure you can look through the windows. Later on, this whole space will be an abandoned dystopian parking lot with many rusted old cars. It will lead to a small town, and even though no one else uses this parking lot anymore, there will be the first character waiting for you to collect a small parking fee. Alright, let's go inside. Before I show you how this looks in-game, let's design the interior of the spaceship too. I'm focusing just on the uppermost farming layer, whose windows are visible on the outside of the starship. But we still need to design the living space that is located between them. I need space for a bedroom and space for a kitchen that can be built later in the game. The rest will be empty areas the player can furnish how they want or use it as storage. The centerpiece will be a water reservoir where the player can refill their watering can. Next, I tried different color schemes. You can see that it took me quite a while to settle on the right one. First I tried out warmer colors, but the player will be able to change the floor and walls later on anyway, and in the beginning I need more a feel of mystery and emptiness. Therefore I went with greens and blues. The cozy warm colors will only be present in the furniture. I then used the sketch to design all the furniture I need for now. This includes the back walls, floor tiles, a fake window, empty boxes, vintage posters, a bed, abandoned books, spider webs, and, most importantly, star-shaped lights for the star-shaped starship. I plan to use all of these to fill up the interior of the starship to make it feel abandoned, old and cluttered, but also cozy at the same time. Alright, now it was time to take a break, petting Milo, before putting everything into the game. Alright, let's have a look. I created all this furniture and my plan was to simply implement all of them one by one. Shouldn't take too long implementing all this new functionality, right? Starting with a bed. And that's when I went down into the rabbit hole of more and more coding. I really like the saving system that almost every farming game uses, automatically saving at the end of each day when you go to bed. I decided to use Newtonsoft and JSON files. That included saving every single plant and its location and current growth state. I keep all placed objects in a dictionary, and so I had to write a custom function for that dictionary. I also use scriptable objects for different plants and placeable items. Scriptable objects usually only contain item data, so for example, how many days it takes for a potato to grow. But since I'm a noob, I decided to put all the methods and the current state into the scriptable object as well. After all, why shouldn't I? Well, long story short, I ended up with assets that were suddenly named tree, copy, 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 and I decided it was time to rework my codebase. I ended up with cleaner code and a working save system, but I had to come to terms with me only finishing a small chunk of what I had planned for this month. I'm still pretty happy with the progress. Another important step was implementing scene transitions. That can be easily done with Unity's scene management, but the tricky part is object permanence, meaning that objects and plants stay as they are when we go in and out of the starship. and at this point I was running out of time, but I found out so far that there are two main ways to do this. Number one is to keep all objects in memory by using don't destroy and load. But I wonder if I will run into memory problems later once the game is larger and I have many plants. Or the second object would be to save and load from files when transitioning a scene. But I wonder if that could make the scene loading times really long. And I don't have enough experience with Unity to make an informed decision here. So let me know if you have any knowledge there, so I can finally get rid of the cacti problem. I also wanted to thank everyone who shared an idea for plant in the last video. Thank you so much. There were quite a few that I didn't even think of when I did my own brainstorming. Also, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to see future updates, please don't forget to subscribe. And please forgive me that I'm also going to shamelessly self-promote now, but if you like my art, I have an Etsy store with posters, which are great gifts for anyone who loves animals. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.